Hey, everybody, what's going on? I am here with another live episode of Snap Decisions. I am very happy to have my guest today. It is Prashaun. Prashaun and I chatted via Twitter, and he was kind enough to offer to be on the show, and we've got him. So, Prashaun, welcome to my show. I really, really appreciate it. Love Prashaun's streams. I was just talking to him a little bit about it. Very chill, and I really dig that. And he got me playing a Galactus deck, which, man, I'm incredibly thankful for that because it's one of my favorite cards in the game. But thanks for joining me, man. Really, really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, no problem. Happy to be on. Let's
awesome.
Talk some Snap.
Let's go. And of course, my dog is going to be barking in the background. That's not helping. Marley. God, I'll edit that out. Yeah, let's talk some Snap. And, well, I figured we would start out with I want to go and just listen. I got to thank you for this right off the bat, because this is what I was talking about with the Galactus thing. I'm a Galactus stan. I love the character from the comic books. He was, and I've told others, my first big pull of any big bad. So when the big bads came out, when they were first released, I got him from a cache, which was crazy because they were so incredibly hard to get. And I just remember pulling the card, and it's funny because the first time I read the card, I thought to myself, this sucks. Why would anyone want to do this and blow up two of the locations? So I kind of just let him sit there. Well, little did I know, if I'd have known, then what I know now with the whole Spider-Man combo and everything else, I probably would have been infinite way back then, but I had no idea what he was good for. And I'm like,
he was super toxic back in the day. You just play, you would ramp up. So you'll play Electro, and then you'll play, Doc Ock next in one lane, and then you would play Galactus and then Spider-Man. Like, it was just ridiculous the way Galactus was played back in the day.
Yeah, it really was. It was, and I know a lot of people hate the card.
I think it even slowly evolved too. Like, people caught on to Galactus, so people put Cloak in their decks to move things around. It was pretty toxic.
Yeah, it definitely was. I know, like I said, when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh, you're part of the problem." I'm like, "Yeah."
I tend to shy away. To be honest, like on YouTube, my toxic decks do the best as far as views because everyone wants the toxicity. Maybe like the other creators don't like that type of gameplay as much, but I know the general fan base of Snap loves that type of play. And I think I have so many Galactus decks. I can do like one a week or something, but I shy away from it just because the level. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I'll let Enturo wave that flag.
Yeah,
but when you play it, it feels sort of good, and then when it happens against you, you just have to clap it up because it's like, geez, like you got that off on me.
Yep. I can never be mad at someone if they play it on me because I've done it so many times. I was just surprised at how well this worked. This was essentially in Terrabang's list, and then you changed it and put Jeff in it when Ms. Marvel got the nerf because Ms. Marvel obviously didn't work as well anymore. But I played both, and I was really surprised. I'm not a big. I'm a casual player. I don't get to play as much as I'd like to because of my work schedule and stuff like that. But and I have been kind of ignoring ladder. My story with ladder was I got to 99 about 3 months ago, and I went on one of those tears where I just lost so many games in a row at 99. I started lose, and I got so mad at the game. I'm like, I'm not stopping until I win a game. And that's the worst thing you could do. And I did that, and I slipped down to like 83 by the time the losing streak was over, and I was like, I'm done. And so I kind of gave up on it. I started playing Conquest and stuff more, and but I started this month at 33 or 30 something because I don't play it at all. And then I saw this, and I'm like, I know the thing about this is since I'm used to playing Galactus, I know the patterns, so I know how to play it, and I know that's key when you want to win with a deck. So I took this and I literally climbed 50 levels. I got up into the 80s with a Galactus deck, which is pretty. I was like, wow, it's kind of almost unheard of, especially with all the things that were out there and Blob being as prevalent as he was. But I was still able to manage winning a lot with this. So I wanted to say thanks to you and, of course, Interrobank, because I'm like this. It was amazing. It reminded me of old times.
Yeah, and then Orca is clutch too, because Orca can sometimes win you one lane, and then if
Yes.
you Galactus a lane, like you could
Yep.
put Orca down or you could put Eliath down, just depending on what you have,
Yep.
and it just secures the lane for you.
Orca was literally the MVP of the deck.
Yeah, for
Hands
sure.
down. Yeah, to your point, like people just don't expect it. They figure they've got you beat in another lane. You plop him down, he's a 16, and then it's like, yeah, you end up winning with him. Yeah, but yeah, I loved it. It brought back really cool memories for me from the early times of the game when I first got the card. So yeah, I wanted to say I appreciate the deck guide and everything. It was really
Oh,
awesome.
no problem. Every
Awesome.
day almost. I have a new one. I have a Loki one. I've been avoiding Loki too, but I couldn't
Oh,
resist the Loki deck that I played
ooh.
today. It's pretty nuts.
Is it coming out later today?
Yeah, for sure. It
I'll
has Quake.
definitely.
Like Quake is, especially with the Altar of Death being the hot location right now. Quake is
Yes.
MVP,
Yeah, Quake
and
is
then
awesome.
it kills destroy decks. Like they think they're gonna play their Deadpool into Altar of Death, and then
Yep.
Quake just changes it.
I will admit I'm not a big fan of Destroy, but when I saw that hot location yesterday, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna pull out the Destroy deck for a little bit. And I played to do my missions last night. I played a guy who was playing Shuri Nimrod, which I haven't seen in forever, and I'm like, oh, I'm probably dead. But I ended up I got null in the middle.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
by the time he was done, my null was 175 points. He
Oh
had the Nimrods
wow.
going all over the board, but I ended up beating him because my Venom was so big because I armed him with the Venom, and then I had the big null in the middle, and I just beat him by a couple of points on the right-hand lane. But yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
that I think
yeah,
that happened to me recently. I think I had I think what Dark Dimension, is it Dream Dimension? Dark Dimension. Dark
yeah,
Dimension.
dark, yep,
So I had Null in the middle, and then I had my Taskmaster. I put Taskmaster there on turn 5, and
yep.
then I had my Null in the middle on turn 6, and they were going crazy destroying stuff, and Null got up to like 200 and something.
Oh my
And
god.
then my Null was a 200, and then my Taskmaster was a 200, and like they were upset. I wish I recorded it because it was 8 cubes too. They totally thought they had me.
That would have been amazing to see. Yeah. I got a null. I don't even remember what the heck I was playing, but they might. I can't really remember the conditions of the game. I remember I took a screenshot of it, but my null was like 1,500 and some.
Oh
I,
wow!
I don't even remember what the heck happened or what they were playing that caused it to get that big, but it was huge. That was the biggest card or biggest power increase card I think I've ever seen since I've been playing the game. But
Wow.
yeah, that's smart though. I mean, playing Quake. I actually, when I started to struggle with this deck a little bit, I put Quake in. I'm like, you know
Oh no.
what? I'm gonna mess around a little bit. I ended up taking out Daredevil. I think I took Daredevil
Okay.
out and I put Quake
Yeah,
in.
that's
It
good.
won. Quake can win you games.
Oh yeah, by far the update to Quake is perfect,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure someday like someone might come out with like a Quake Snow Guard Legion like type of deal.
Yep. Yeah.
That
Like a
would be pretty
location
cool.
mess around kind of a thing. You
Yeah,
just mess
like
it with it.
I've messed around with it, but I don't think it wins. Like the win rate's not insane,
Yep.
but just having like all those cards together and like Scarlet Witch and then I don't know Rhino or Storm. Like I think that would be a cool deck
Yeah,
if it
yeah, I
works.
know it definitely would be something cool to see. Mess around with locations. I mean, it's a powerful thing. People really didn't realize it when Legion came out, and then Legion just took the world by storm. And but yeah, I mean, when you messing with the locations is really really powerful thing to do in this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think when I was talking to Educated Collins, when I first started watching his stuff, Scarlet
Yep.
Witch was always the surprise card in his decks, and that would win him games all the
Yeah.
time.
I think that's what made everyone talks obviously about Blob and stuff in the Thanos decks, but honestly, the stones themselves too, them being able to change locations. I know I got beat by one just because I was playing high Evo, but I got beat by them just because they got rid of the magic lane with the stone, and
Oh yeah,
then
for
they were
sure.
just able to beat me with that. So that's a really powerful thing to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely scared. If I have Magic, if I'm playing Magic, like I'm definitely scared if they didn't play Reality Stone yet.
Yep, yep, absolutely. All right, moving on here. Of course, this is the original deck. That's in Bang's deck and the version of that he did, and the ramp up you could see there, pretty much the same thing. Let's move on to our card that we're getting this week. So we have got Grandmaster up there. Grandmaster, obviously, you move one of your cards, and it basically on reveals twice. So what do you think of Grandmaster? I know a lot of people are saying they think this might be the best card of this month. Some people are saying it could be broken, and then there are other people that are kind of a little skeptical about it. Like, it might be one of those cards that may be good, it may not be so good. What are you thinking of Grandmaster?
I think it's good, but I think it might bring another card into light, and that's Echo. I think Echo in the middle, that way they don't play Cosmo in the middle to counter you. So I'm definitely going to be putting Echo down turn 1 in the middle, just to remedy that. But I think he's going to be pretty good, especially in Destroy or a long going deck, just to get everything to proc off again.
Yeah.
Or even if you slow it down in a Sandman ramp deck, if you could get Doom off and then Doom off again, I think that would be pretty perfect too. Yeah. So there's a bunch of things I've been thinking of in my head with this card. It's just that I don't know, how are you going to counter it, and then how do you stop yourself from being countered by it?
Sandman's interesting. That's a good call. Destroy, I thought of immediately because obviously they always want those reveals to go off. The more you do the Venoms and all that other stuff, the Arnim Zola and everything like that, so could get crazy. But Sandman's a good shout because you have the Sandman out. You're playing one card a turn, but yet he would proc the Doom twice, like you said. That's interesting,
right?
Actually.
And then if you got Odin out or something too, like that, I don't know. It would be pretty crazy to see what happens.
Yeah.
I just have to play with it once it comes out.
What have you thought of the while we're on the topic, because obviously this is the next to last card that we're getting in January, but what have you thought of the month so far? I mean, pretty when we come off of the blob and everything that was going on with that, and of course now the blob gets the nerf, but what do you think of this month? Are you overall? I know Scar is okay, it's an okay card, and then some of the other cards that we've gotten, Kyera sees some play obviously in the 1 and 6 decks, or but I don't know, it's kind of been, and I guess I'm okay with it, but it's kind of been not underwhelming, but kind of maybe just kind of a meh month, I think so far. What's your opinion?
I think the best card to me is Kyera.
Yeah.
It brought back Zoo for me. I was able to play Zoo comfortably. I think she might be a key piece going on, into the future of Snap. She might be a key piece. But I think they're trying not to go too crazy with these cards, especially after that Elsa Bloodstone season.
Yeah.
Because it seems like every card that came out that season got nerfed, Alioth, Elsa, Werewolf by Night. Every card got touched after.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're trying to be more careful on what they come out with. And then even Miss Marvel, too. She got nerfed, too.
She did.
So it's I don't know. It's sort of and Blob. Blob got nerfed. Yeah. So it's weird how they're backtracking on these cards. I think they're trying to play it safe for the most part. And then even Firestar, that didn't even come out because they knew how broken that was before they even released it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's been a lot of outrage, I think, from people and stuff like that about how the cards came out, and then of course you get into that whole situation where they're buying these cards in one way or another. You're either buying the season pass and you're using your tokens, or using you're buying caches and stuff, which are not expensive to do, and then you have the card for 2 weeks and then they nerf the card. So it's not a great feeling. So yeah, I mean, you might be right. They might have thought, well, let's kind of tone it down a little bit. We'll put some cards out that are they're good in certain situations, but they're nothing that is gonna break the game.
Even with Loki, because they tend to try to nerf cards around it.
Yes.
So they nerfed Cable, Maria Hill. They tend to nerf cards around the actual problem instead of just solving the problem, because they know they'll get that outrage.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. What do you? I mean, while we're on the topic here, what do you think of the overall? Because I know other people I've had on and people that I've talked to. Um, well, let me ask you first. Were you before Marvel Snap? Were you playing other card games and stuff like digital stuff, or did you play like any collectible card games? I know I started in the '90s in Magic, and that's I played Magic for a long time. But what were you playing anything prior to this?
Um, when I was a kid, Pokemon,
Oh, okay,
obviously.
hey, that's yeah,
Um, I think that's what started the card game aspect. Like from when I was like a kid, my dad collected baseball cards, basketball cards, football cards.
yep, me too.
The cards have always been around, but I think Pokemon was the first trading card game.
Yep,
And then I think Pokemon came out when I was like what elementary, middle school.
okay,
And then once I got into high school, of course, it became kiddish. So I went over to Magic. So I played Magic for maybe like 4 years, maybe my high
nice.
school years, and then after that, like I quit playing for the most part. And then I would play like I guess I forget what the game is called, but I would play it on Xbox every once in a while.
Okay,
So I made a bunch of friends from playing Magic on Xbox, but I quit playing that too. But I've always been into comic books, so like
yes,
especially like the comics and the movies and all that. So I was heavily into Marvel, so I noticed like they had a card game, and I'm like, all right, and it's on mobile too. So I was like, all right, I could do this. Like it's on mobile, it's Marvel. Like I'm decent at card games, or I used to be at
yep,
least. And then I started picking up Lorcana a little bit.
okay.
But I haven't played a game against anybody. I've just like collected cards.
Yep.
I have a few people that are in the area that play it. I think Bradford plays it, and Default Dan plays
Nice.
Lorcana
Yeah.
too, and they're in the Tampa area. So I don't know. That's my extent of cards for the most
Yeah.
part.
Okay. Yeah. I played what drew me to it. Oh, obviously, I'm like you. I'm a big comic book fan, big Marvel nerd, and have been for years. Marvel and DC. I read them all. But when I saw this, I was kind of happy because there was a game that came out right around the time of MCU, I would say the Avengers film. So that's going back already a ways, which is kind of crazy thinking about it. But a game came out called Marvel Battle Lines, and it was a card game, but it was honestly like people complain about this being a money grab sometimes. Oh my god, that game was the biggest money grab game I think I've ever seen. You couldn't win unless you bought cards. It was that simple. But it just reminded me, it was a weird game. They had lines. It was almost like playing tic-tac-toe, but the characters were they'd have certain powers and abilities and stuff like that, and they'd fight each other in this little, like almost like a little game board. I enjoyed it because it had all the characters from the MCU. It's where Thanos, the Black Order, like we're getting next month, were there, like all of the heroes and stuff like that. So it's fun, but literally I got into it, and kind of like this game, unfortunately, I spent a good amount of money on it, and then it literally lasted a year. And I remember them. It came out right around Black Panther when the first Black Panther film was coming out. They had we have a Black Panther set, and then the next thing you know, you see a thing where we're closing the game down, and I'm like, oh man.
Well,
So
hopefully this game lasts a minute, especially since Second Dinner got that investment.
I was pretty happy to see that because I'm like, I'm kind of similar with this. I don't play it as much, like I said, because I don't have as much time, but I still have spent a good amount of money, and I'm like, I really hope this one lasts because I was disappointing. But yeah, no, it's good that they got that, and it's good. But so the state of the game, and I'll ask you this. I talked about this with Glazer a little bit too. Now that they did get that money, how do you see, like, where do you see the game going, like, in your opinion? Do you think it's headed in a good direction? Do you think there needs to be some major changes? Like, I know I've talked about this with some other guests I've had too. Changing in the new player experience, especially pool 3, is what a lot of people seem to say would really help to keep and retain players.
I don't know. It's tough. Like, as being a new player, if I started from scratch, it would be tough.
Yeah.
Like, you would have to grind.
Yep.
But I have to remember from my experience too, being in beta, like I had to grind too. Like I was playing hours and hours and hours of the game. So I think like we're stuck in this instant gratification of things, but honestly, I think if pool 1, pool 2, pool 3 players are playing against each other, it's fine. And then once you reach infinite, you're on your own. But I think if you're playing against the pool of people that you should be playing against, I think it's totally fine.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. But it just sucks being a new player and then just seeing the shiny new toys out there and you can't touch them at all.
You can't go. Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to, I saw TLSG do it and I'm like, I'm going to start a different account and I'm just going to just try to start over and just see what it's like. And I got in, I wasn't in beta, but I got in maybe a month or so, I would say after, is when I started, and it was enjoyable. I kind of like getting the, I love getting the new cards and seeing what cards I was going to pull and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun. However, I could see the point of that when you get to pool 3, and even back then, you're coming up against decks where it's just the luck of the draw. If players are getting the cards that you don't have, so let's say somebody gets Carnage, Venom, and gets a good Destroy deck going, they're going to beat you with my here I am playing Zoo, or I'm playing some other kind of, and I'm just going to get slaughtered because it's like I don't have the cards. Yeah,
I think I had like Bishop, Kazar,
yep,
Blue Marvel, and that was like my win condition every game.
I didn't get the Wongs and I didn't get the White Tiger combination. I never got those cards. So
like Hella was one of my last cards, so I couldn't really play this card the way I wanted to play it. So
it was same way. And so when I started this new account over, now I think it's actually worse because if you tried it, because they can play in Conquest, newer players obviously can play Conquest, but I went in there a couple of times and I got wiped out. It's like, this sucks.
Well, just imagine too, because there's 5 cards coming out every month.
Yep.
So you're getting more and more behind by the month.
Yeah.
So it's definitely tough for the new player. Yeah. And then like as an old, like, because even players ask me to make beginner decks, like beginner deck guides, but I'm like, people don't watch those videos because a lot of my fan base aren't looking for, they want to see the new shiny toy or the best meta deck, and that's not meta. And then I'm typically infinite day 1. So if I bring a beginner deck in my little pocket meta, I can't win. Like there's no way I win games.
Yeah.
So I would have to start an account from scratch just to show like beginner gameplay. I could talk about beginner decks, but it's hard for me to get wins off without donating cubes to show how they actually win.
I gotta ask you, for someone who does, you said you hit infinite every month. How generally, like if you like offhand, generally about how long as a casual player, I'm just wondering, how long does it take you? So you're starting 70, right? They put you back to 70. How long do you like if like in hours? I know maybe you don't know exactly, but how long does it normally take you to get from 70 to 100? Just out of sheer curiosity for me, because I often wondered, like, the people who are there, how long do they play in order to actually get back to infinite?
My quickest is 4 hours.
Oh wow, okay.
I think this season I streamed for a while. I think I streamed for 6 hours. For like 5 or 6 hours I streamed, and then I streamed again for another 2.
Oh wow, okay.
So I think this season I got infinite like a little bit after 24 hours. But I legit think it took me like 7 or 8 hours to get infinite this past season.
So, I mean, it does. That's what I think. Me, as someone who hasn't hit it, I often thought to myself that, and you just, I guess playing, you just kind of start to get, you kind of feel this way when you see an achievement out there, which, for you, it's getting infinite day 1 and stuff like that. And you see people doing it. You start to wonder to yourself, what am I doing wrong? Because am I not that good of a player? And then I think to myself, is it just because too, maybe I just can't put the hours in? And
it's cube equity sometimes. Like when I got 4 hours, like it was cubes. I was getting 8 cube games left and right, and then I was retreating when I needed to. And then when it took me 8 hours, like I think the 8 cube games weren't on my side. I think I lost more 8 cube games than I won. So that's why it took so long. If I had like retreated when I should have retreated instead of staying in games, I would have made it it probably would have shaved like 3 hours.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. If you did the 8 cube wins are the ones that are going to get you to climb more.
Right.
What do you think of the mechanics of this game sometimes kind of fascinate me because it's a card game, but it's also a variation pretty much of poker.
Oh yeah.
They took the snapping part of it, and I played poker when I was a young man. Never, I mean, I was okay, but I was the thing I was bad at is one of the things that you really need to be good at in this game, and that's like, you know, the bluffing and then knowing kind of when to call your opponent and this kind of stuff is big in this. And you know, that's one of the things that I know, you know, watching guys like you, watching other streams and stuff like that, and seeing people, you know, be happy with a 1 cube loss, walk away knowing that, hey, you can't win, I'm getting out and I'm only losing a cube, and being happy with that as opposed to sticking around. And I know this is what my issue was. I would want to see, all right, it looks like I'm dead, but maybe I'm going to pull that card that's going to give me a win, and I'd stick around, and then I'm losing 4 cubes, I'm losing 8 cubes because I'm sticking around. So that's one of the things I know that I had to learn because I know I was losing because of that.
Right. I think it's all about cube equity.
Yep.
Like I noticed too with me, I tend to stick in games too just to see what happens.
Yep.
Even if I lose, I still want to see what happens if I have that like sliver of hope. But it, like when you're doing your infinite climb, if it's 1 cube, you gotta leave.
Yep.
Because you know, like the next game you can win 4, and then you're climbing like crazy whenever that happens.
Yep.
So it's like, yeah, like after infinite, I didn't really care. I think that's why my snap points whenever they started that, because I was always infinite pretty quickly, but. Nice. After infinite, I would not care if I won or lost. I would just play games and test. Like I test decks all the time.
Yeah.
And I rather play them on ladder than in conquest, because conquest you're playing against the same deck over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like on ladder, you're seeing everything. So I tend to like people ask all the time. It's like, why don't you test it in conquest? I'm like, no. Like I want to see how it plays in the field. And then conquest runs too slow for me, in my opinion. Yeah. I think it just goes too slow, and I just want fast matches.
Yeah, I agree with you. I get so annoyed. I'll go into proving grounds to test the deck, which I think is where you really should go. You know what I mean? It's proving grounds. That's what you should do, and I do. But then all the time, and it never fails. And I was playing the day before yesterday, and my first 5 matches were against Hella decks. Every single one was Hella. And I'm playing in proving grounds, and they stay. I'm like, come on, man! Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, play that first game and get out. That's all I want to do. I just want to see how the deck is. You know, I don't want to play an entire match, and everybody stays in there. And I never understood, like, why are you playing? You know, known decks that are that, you know, the do good decks, the ones that are really good to begin with. What are you doing playing high Evo? What are you doing playing blob in proving grounds and then staying in a match? I get it. People want to maybe collect some tickets and stuff like that at the beginning of the season. Okay. But like, what are you doing playing that stuff?
I typically don't play Conquest until maybe the last week.
Yeah, when the Infinity ticket comes up. Yeah.
Right. Because I know I get that a lot too. It's like, why don't you play Conquest and give us Conquest decks? And I'm like, I'm not really playing Conquest. Yeah. I'm going back and forth. I'm sliding between being the top 1,000 player and top 10,000 player constantly, just testing out decks.
Yep. Yeah, see, and I remember, you know, before obviously they had the infinite ladder. They, you know, once you got to infinite, that was when, you know, watching shows like yours and other creators, that was when they would do that. They would sweat. They're like, okay, I'm over. You know, I'm in infinite now. I'm going to start messing around. I'm going to start using decks. I don't care about rank because it didn't matter. There was nothing else. So it was like, I'm just going to start playing different decks and stuff like that. And I think, for the audiences and stuff that watch you guys, you know, myself included, it was fun because then you got to see you're playing that one deck you know is going to get you where you need to go. But then after that, you know, you kind of, all right, we're just going to mess around. And then it's fun because you got to see just like you guys playing decks that you would never play.
Right. Because it could get boring too. Like, I'm pretty sure I can make it to the top 100 if I'm playing like high Evo the whole time or
Yep.
Sheena, but that
Yep.
gets boring. Like,
Yeah.
you want to try to create or be innovative like a little bit when it comes to the game. It gets boring when you're playing the same thing and you're seeing the same thing too. It's like, this again. But I don't know. It is what it is. I know people just want to win.
Yeah, ultimately that's what it is. I mean, no matter what you play, it doesn't matter how casual you may be. The whole point of it is you want to win games. You're not out there and like, yeah, I lost 17 games in a row. I'm good. It's been a great day. It's like, yeah, everybody wants to win. I go back to my Magic playing days too. I was playing in the 90s when the physical card games, I would go to tournaments. We would drive to, like, 2 states away to play in these tournaments that were offering cash prizes and stuff like that. So, but to your point, when you'd get there, I always played a discard deck. I love discard decks and make my opponents get rid of their cards. And then
I love counter decks back in the day.
Yeah, no, counter blue. A lot of my friends did too. They were certain decks. There was a blue-white deck that people played at these tournaments a lot back in the day, but they were essentially lock decks. If you did a certain thing, there was a card called a moat that wouldn't let your opponent's creatures attack. They would get that out. They would make sure that you had nothing to get rid of it. And essentially, it was almost like they talk about lockdown decks in this game, where you're just done. If they get their combination of cards out, you're not winning.
I think I remember like Wrath of God, like destroying every creature on the board. Like,
blue-white was nasty. And I play straight black. I never ever played any other color but black. Because of that, if anyone was playing anything like that, normally 9 times out of 10 I'm dead. Because if they can get rid of the creatures that I have, I'm done for.
Yeah, I think I remember those days. Whenever a new like expansion came out, I would go to the comic book store, and then there would be a tournament that night, and whoever won the tournament gets a box.
Yep.
Like,
it was fun, man. I wish I kept my cards. I wish I kept my.
I think I have one deck. My mom might have a bunch of cards at her house, but I think I still have like one deck here. But I got it from the magazine, like the Wizard, or was it the Wizards?
Wizards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I legit copied the deck from the magazine, and I still have
there was net decking even back then with books.
Yeah, I remember trying to get the magazine every month to see what the hot decks were, and then I would just copy those decks.
We got in early enough where we were able to get, like, we got in right on. So the first few sets of the physical cards were alpha, beta, and then unlimited. So we got in at unlimited, where you could still get beta cards. I ended up getting my hands on a beta Black Lotus, which it's insane. You look that card up now online on eBay and it goes for $500,000, which is crazy. And I'm like, but of course, when you get out of a game, you sell your cards and it's like, yep, I'm done. And now you look back at it like, damn, I really wish I would have kept them. But to your point, it's, even back then, when you'd go to these tournaments, it was friendly. You'd meet new people and stuff like that. And it was cool. But ultimately, the goal was to win. You wanted to win the game. That was how it was.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So Grandmaster comes out. In your opinion, a lot of people ask this all the time. I know Drew Berry does a very good job with his whole snapper pass thing. What do you think of this card? Would you, if you're just let's say you're a casual player, you're not like, I'm collection complete, so I get the cards all the time anyway, no matter what they are. But if you're not in that particular situation, is this one you would spend tokens on? You would open caches for, or is it kind of something like a wait and see?
I would wait and see. I think Beta Ray Bill is a better card for beginners.
Yeah, I would think so.
Compared to Grandmaster.
Yeah. That's a good point. Beta Ray is just kind of like another Thor in essence.
Right. Because I think you would just play like whatever turn 1, whatever turn 2, Thor, Beta Ray, Jane Foster.
Yeah.
And then like you could probably play a Zeros to Heroes deck and then play like Werewolf by Night and then just drop Stormbreaker and Mjolnir and Wasp and Yellow Jacket and just flood the board.
Yep. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. You could throw Wong in there if you want to get crazy.
Oh,
Put the hammers in the Wong lane. Yeah. Yeah.
And then play Grandmaster.
Yeah. Yeah. There you
Yeah, that
go.
would be crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with you. This is a card where a lot of people have said, as we said at the beginning of the show, that this card could end up being broken, but I don't know. I would wait and see too, before you spend, especially tokens now are so hard to come by, and the caches. This week's caches are like, I mean, Loki's in there. If you don't have Loki, it's the President Loki thing, I think. Am I right? I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
vote Loki.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, obviously, but Loki isn't necessarily as big of a card out there as it used to be. So, but yeah, no, I would agree. I think
Yeah,
I
I
would
would say
probably.
Kyra and Beta Ray Bill would be the cards to go after if you're a new player.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah, I agree. All right. I'm just going to touch on this real quick with you because, again, everybody's talked about this kind of to death. This is, of course, the balance update. The graphic is Nina's. Nina does an amazing job on these new patch graphics. So, what do you think? I mean, what are the cards that you think really hit most for you? I mean, for me, obviously, the blob change, getting that down from ended up being like, it could be a 60, 70 power down to now it's, you're going to see it average around maybe 20, 17, 20, 22. That uncommon one, if they're playing Infinite, where you'd get 34 I think is the highest he could go. And then for me, the two interesting cards I think that were the most, I think, maybe impactful were obviously the blob, and for me it's Dagger. Man, I don't normally play move, but I tried a couple move decks with her, and holy cow, does that card scale? It's insane. I had her up to 18 once. I got her up to 24 once. So I think it's cool because move is an archetype that you don't see too many people play much. And now you got Hercules in there, and you have this Dagger card. So, what did you think of the patch overall? And what are some of the cards that you think are really going to do maybe a little better since they got some buffs or whatever the case might be?
I think it's a decent patch. I don't like Viper. I think she should be a 2.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Viper said, and then even going back, Black Widow, I think should have been a 2 still too. Selene is pretty decent. I really like that call, what they did with her, making her positive instead of a negative. Dagger is ridiculous, but move is too. For me, I have to think, and then like sometimes I overthink with move, so I tend to shy away from it. Especially with Hercules too. Like I think Hercules would be awesome if it, like, no matter what moves into his lane, he throws it instead of just throwing it once. Because if your opponent throws something into your Hercules first, you can't use Hercules. Which sucks. So I wish they could make that change on him. Destroyer, like, whatever. People really don't play Destroyer. They probably brought out Nimrod. They dusted off Nimrod for a second for him. But no, he's not really that competitive, especially since Professor X is 1 now. You don't see that often. And then Dazzler, I still don't think it's enough power to be that confident in her. Like, especially flooding the board. You don't want to flood your board too much. Because you want to have that wiggle room. And then Electra is Electra. They're not going to play Electra. You might see some Electra play coming soon with Grandmaster. Because everyone's going to play Echo, and then someone's going to try to counter that Echo with Electra. So you might see Electra play coming up in the next few days, which I think is going to be pretty interesting with Grandmaster. It's like, are you going to sacrifice a spot just to put Electra in?
Yeah, that's true. That you may never use.
And then Blob, I think Blob got better because you could play Ravonna with Blob.
Ooh.
So you play Ravonna, you play Blob on 5, and then you play Taskmaster on 6, and then it's a decent play line still. Or you can even put Blob in a negative deck.
Yeah, you can. yeah, you can.
I guess people are just afraid of cards being too tall, especially Blob being bigger than an Infinite, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's not like a big side effect to Blob either, because you're playing Blob on 5 or 6. You already have enough cards in your hand already, so you're not sacrificing anything for them. So
yeah, cards that you wouldn't have seen anyway. They're sitting in your deck. Yeah. Well, I got to tell you that to your point, playing the last few days, I've still seen Blob. It hasn't really gone away. People are still playing Thanos, and so I'm like, I don't necessarily think it really. Especially that Lockjaw list. They have so many big cards in that list anyway that even if they don't get Blob, they're still getting tons of power on the board.
Yeah, it seems like Thanos Lockjaw is never going away.
Yeah,
as much as they nerfed Thanos to death, like in all the other cards. Because I think I had Arrow in my Lockjaw Thanos list back in the day.
Yeah.
And that would ruin people, but like that's never going away.
To that point, you think they should do something with Lockjaw? I know they already messed around with it a little bit, but to see where I don't know how they could do it unless they completely rework the card. But do you think it'll get to that point where Lockjaw just becomes that type of deck, just becomes so obnoxious that they've got to do something to Lockjaw?
I don't know. I don't know if like you nerf the card after it's played in it.
Yeah.
Like if you play this card into Lockjaw, then it loses 1 power or something, like something crazy like that.
Okay.
That would be interesting, but I don't know. I think he's fine the way he is. Like it used to be crazy where you could play like 3 cards in the Lockjaw.
Yeah, you could play every stone at one time.
Yeah, and then Quinjet too. You just had free stones.
Yeah,
like you're just playing free cards everywhere. So I thought that's what they're going to do with Loki, just not have Quinjet like help out Loki, but
work with it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what. I guess they might be afraid of the outrage that would come.
Yeah, I don't know. Loki was weird, like you had mentioned earlier. They don't seem like they're afraid to hit cards hard like they did with Elsa. I mean, they killed her, but with Loki, you said it earlier. It just seemed like there was something there where they worked around the problem, like you said, but they just never wanted to get to the root of the problem and change the whole thing where he's getting the opponent's cards cheaper. I mean, that's really what the card. That's how the card beats you. It just plays your deck better than you because the cards are less. So, and they never really got to the problem. So, yeah, you're right.
I tend not to lose against Loki decks because the decks I play are normally quicker.
Yeah, okay.
But like in tournament play, Loki's hard to beat because you're playing someone over and over, and then they learn your deck and they learn how to play against you.
Yep.
So like in tournament play, I think Loki's pretty good, but ladder, I don't think Loki's good at all.
Yeah. Makes sense. So yeah, that's the balance update. I actually, when I saw Celine, and of course my mind with the 1-track mind with Galactus, I thought, ooh, this card might work well in that Galactus deck. I threw her in there. It sucked. I lost like 9 straight. I'm like, yep, nope, that was a failed experiment.
I think with Celine, it wouldn't matter anyways because you're putting that negative on the board regardless, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're hoping that you hit something on your opponent's side too. But if they're playing, because you're seeing a lot of Annihilus too, so you're like, if you're seeing Annihilus, then you're sort of helping them a little bit too. So
right. Someone mentioned on another podcast I was listening to that she may show up in a bounce list, which I thought, ooh, I don't really think of that. You play bounce with her and you keep bouncing that card back and forth, and they're going to keep getting that negative on their cards time and time again. So I'm like, that's interesting. Would have never really considered that. I mean, if Black Widow was what it used to be, oh God, that would have been
for sure. If Black Widow was a 2.
That would have been oppressive.
Because I was even thinking that too. Like, I don't know, like Celine, Black Widow, Viper, like the old Celine.
Yep.
That would have been nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, because the more that negative power hurts. People don't really realize that, but if you're playing cards that are, even with Celine when she was a -1, you play her down in your own lane and you don't get the right cards. If you're playing an Annihilus, you don't get the Annihilus. That -1 hurts. You don't think it does, but you stick her in a lane, you're already losing a lane.
Right.
So that's that negative power does hurt. And if in the bounce list, if you keep bouncing her out, you keep negative powering your opponent's cards, that's going to take its toll after a while. So
Yeah, especially if
might
they're playing something like Iron Man or Cerebro.
mhm. Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
definitely going to hurt them because those are cards they want to play later in the game, not early in the game.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. How do you feel about these? I have to ask you this too, because and again, maybe it's just me. It could just be my luck that I have with whatever. But again, I was telling you last night I was seeing Hella.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. It never fails. I could play that deck, and 9 times out of 10, I would never see Hella. I would just never see the card. Every time I play my opponent, they get the exact cards they need. The Hella on the last turn, everything pops out, and I lose. And the same thing with Tribunal. I was playing a Tribunal deck last night, and I'm like, oh man, I ended up winning, but it was like the cards he got out, the Onslaught, the Iron Man, the Tribunal, every single time they play, and I'm like, how do they get these combos off? Like you would think, they wouldn't pull these cards half the time, but
Right.
it's insane. Like
sort of like Exodia decks too. Like I think I made a Gambit deck that was Drewski's. It's hard to get these combos off.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. That's why I kind of shy away from them. I don't play them because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get these the combos that I need in these decks. And then if you don't, you're just done. You have to retreat
Right.
because
You
it's
have to
like
retreat turn. Like
yep,
you have to know when to retreat on those and know
yep,
when to snap.
yep.
Just so you can get your cubes back, the break even.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I just have those combo decks. It's like nope, no luck with that. Even Wong, I was trying to play just when that came back into when the White Tiger got the buff, and people kind of started playing with Wong a little bit again. I tried, but I'm like, I haven't played with Wong in a while. I played, I'm playing a Wong deck. Never get Wong until like turn 5 or turn 6. I don't get him until the very end of the game.
I try to play. I have a pretty decent targeted discard deck.
Okay.
That uses like Lockjaw. So like I use the Silver Samurai to hit White Tiger or Jubilee.
Oh, nice.
And then
okay.
like I use Hella to bring them back, or I'll use Ghost Rider to bring them back.
Oh, that's cool.
And so targeted discard's been my thing compared to I know like Tribunal is pretty good, but I don't know. Yep. It gets boring.
Yeah. Me. I would love I was telling you that goes back to my Magic days because technically when I would play discard, that's what you did. It was targeted discard. They had cards where you discarded your opponent's cards randomly, so you would kind of choose 2 of their cards to discard. And that's a huge hit to their decks. I wish they would do more of that, but I don't see it happening because I don't think they like that when you mess around with the ways that your opponent could win very much. But I would love
the only
to see
thing you have is what Moon Knight. Well, you have Moon Knight, Black
Samurai,
and Samurai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like to see it more. I really would because I think that's cool. Not just discarding your own cards, but getting rid of theirs as well. I think that would.
I try to make decks like that, but I don't get enough power on the board. Like I try to put like Cable, Yondu, like and then bounce them back and then play them again. That way I could delete their deck and then try to delete their hand.
Yeah, they just
before Gambit got, and I think I had Gambit in that deck too. This is before Gambit got nerfed, where you didn't even need cards in your hand, and Gambit still went off.
I played against a Gambit discard deck last night, as a matter of fact, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And they got the Wong lane, they got the Mystique, they got the Gambit, they got the whole 9. They even had Onslaught there. They even had Onslaught with.
Did they play Wave?
Yeah. They got the wave out early, and they the Onslaught in the lane, and then it was insane. But I had played a deck that had armor, so I had one lane with 4 cards in it that were big cards, and it was armored. And then I had 2 other lanes. I was beating him in all 3, so he would have had to hit. I had 1 card underneath one lane, 2 cards underneath the right, and 4 under armor. Every single hit off that Gambit hit the armor lane. Every single one.
That's crazy. That's
Yep.
happened to me too, where I think they had an armor lane and my gambit just kept on going after the one card that was in the
Yep.
armor lane. I was like, what is going on? They got so lucky.
Yep. I saw that and I thought for sure, I'm like, oh, I'm smoked. All he has to do is hit like one or two of those cards and I'm done. And it's going through and armor, armor,
Yeah,
armor, armor.
it's crazy
Like,
how
oh,
like one card like Meek could bring Gambit out of nowhere.
yep. Yeah. The Gambit. Oh, yeah, Gambit is a nasty card if that kind of stuff gets off and all your I've seen like those blooper, they show those videos on YouTube where they show the funniest moments that the in Snap, and that's one of
Yeah,
the things that it comes up
I
when
think I
people play
made
it.
one of those the other day.
Did you? Yeah.
Someone like messaged me and they're like, "Oh, you're in this video." I was like, "Really?" And I was like,
Were
"Oh,
you?
wow, that's
It,
cool."
it's funny how you wonder how I wondered how they get that stuff and like whether they actually ask people to use their footage. I didn't know how they did that, but I guess not if you didn't know.
No, like someone that follows me sent it to me. And it was like, "Oh, it's cool to see you somewhere." I was like, "What, really?" But
That's
lucky, I know Daily Dose, so he's
okay.
the homie. So like, I'm like, all right, it's him. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I often wondered how they did those. That's funny though. All right, let's well, we talked a little bit already about Beta Ray Bill. And
Mhm.
you had mentioned that, probably a good pull for like maybe, newer players, maybe players who aren't hitting infinite a lot and stuff like that. And you mentioned using him almost in like basically, I guess could just be a Thor's deck where you're using him,
Yeah.
Thor, and Jane Foster together. So yeah, I mean, this is it's an interesting card. It's another Thor, and you can use it in a whole bunch of different ways. And like you were saying earlier, I'm sure you'll probably see Wong being used with it, and other cards that'll come out with this variation of a deck. But I mean, kind of cool. I love the character. I always did in the comics. I was waiting for them to bring him into the game because I thought it was cool. I don't know if you caught it, and a lot of people didn't. I mentioned it in my last podcast, but in Thor, in Ragnarok, there's a scene where they show Beta Ray Bill.
Well, yeah,
They
he's on the Tower of
on the
Champions or whatever.
tower.
Right?
Yes, yes. And Man Thing was on there too, which I marked out when I saw Man Thing on that. I'm like, yes. And there's three heads there, but he was on there. So I'm hoping they bring him into the MCU. He's actually a favorite character of mine from the comics. I like him a lot.
Mhm.
But any other thoughts on Beta Ray Bill other than like what you were saying before? But what do you think of the card?
Yeah, I think it's a solid card. I don't know. I think it's a weird. Well, I guess it works because he was on, I guess, the Tournament of Champions too. So yeah, I think it works in this season with him being on Sakar or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he's a decent card. I would go for him if you're a new player. He's
Yep.
just a beefed up Thor.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. These are the variants, of course, from before. This is with the Grandmaster, so you're getting President Loki, which is a comic book cover as well,
Yeah,
which I'm going to go into in a minute. Hit
like the
Monkey,
Grandmaster is 2, I believe.
yes, yeah. Oh, yeah, this one in the middle, yeah, yep. I think you're
Yeah,
right. And then Hit Monkey, Hit Monkey's not really played much anymore. Good
a little
card.
bit.
Yeah,
A
you
little.
see him obviously in Bounce,
Yeah.
but not nearly as much as he was when Bounce was so prevalent. So decent cash, I guess. Again, if you don't have Loki, and especially that variant's kind of cool. I find myself collecting a lot of the comic book cover ones, and I don't. I didn't think I would, but I now find myself. I didn't realize the Howard the Duck was a comic book cover. The
Oh
one with the
yeah,
Infinity
yeah.
Gauntlet. I had no idea. So I
And the
went and I got.
crazy thing is, I saw it in my comic book shop not too long ago, and I thought about getting it for my friend Lil Robotessin. I thought about buying it and shipping it off to Canada, but I was
Nice.
like, eh. And I was like, crap, I should have bought it. Like it's in the game now.
Yeah, it's a great segue into the next segment here, which I'm going to get to actually right now. I wanted to talk to you about this. I love talking to folks about comics, and one of the things that I do on my show is I talk a little about the lore of the characters. And I know Snap puts out that little thing, which is great. They put the
Mhm.
the lore out of them, what they are and everything. But I kind of maybe if I've read books with the character in it, I kind of try to bring my personal experiences and stuff into it from reading comics.
Mhm.
And I wanted to talk to you about this too because I think it's interesting. Cards like this this is one of the snap cards, obviously, for Sentinel, and this is artwork from the comics. And I don't think really a lot of people realize. Now we're getting the comic book covers, which I absolutely love, and we just talked about. There's Howard, of course, with the Infinity Gauntlet. This one is coming out, which I cannot wait for. I know they pushed this one back. I own this book, which is, Man-Thing's always been a favorite of mine. And then, of course, we have, and I think I have them up here. Yep, the Infinity Gauntlet one,
that one's awesome.
Oh my God, I can't wait for this variant. I don't know about you, but for me, being a comic fan, I want to get these as inked variants because I think it'll look so cool. Just like when the artists, you see pictures of when the artists draw the pages. Obviously, they ink them first and then they get them colored afterwards. So I think these
penciled then inked.
Pencils that yeah. But I think these are amazing, dude. I hope they keep doing these.
And I actually have that comic book. I have I don't have like a thick set. I actually have each individual comic book from the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, me too.
Which will be pretty awesome. I'm gonna dust that off and like post it somewhere.
Yeah, me too. I go back through and I have some. I wish I would have kept all the comics that I have. I have some from mid 70s and stuff like that, and most of the ones I have are, I was a big Spider-Man fan, but also I read weird stuff. I used to like Doctor Strange back in the 70s, which was, and I don't really know, I was a young kid then, but I think I just liked all the color. Doctor Strange was very like psychedelic. They used a lot of
same with Silver Surfer too.
Yes.
Some of the stuff from the 90s was pretty crazy.
Yep.
Like very eye-catching.
They also used to have, when I was younger, they would come out with giant sized books. They were comics that were just oversized. They were actually 2 or 3 times the size of a regular comic book. And most of them, a lot of them were reprinted stories from books that came out like much earlier on. But I remember buying those, and some of them, like I have one, which is they had Marvel and DC crossovers. There was a Superman and Spider-Man issue. There was where the two of those guys ended up fighting at one point, and then they end up getting together to fight the respective villains. But then they had like a Batman and Hulk, and they had the issues cost $1 back in the day. But I mean, they're a lot more expensive now if you can still find them. But I love comic books, dude. Like, what are I know you're a comic book fan. You just mentioned this. This literally is one of my favorite stories that I've read. I absolutely love this. Now, you've read it, so I got to ask you, what did you think of the way the MCU did this? And the reason I'm asking you is because I understand why they couldn't, but I missed not having Death in that movie. I missed it because she's such a big part of the comics. And it's like, but now I know. It would have been a hard sell for them to have an entity there egging on Thanos, saying, okay, you got to do this and you got to do that. Like she was. I get it. That people wouldn't have understood it. And a friend of mine was mentioning that. He's like, well, they couldn't really got that. But what did you think about that? Did you, because I really missed her from the movie.
I don't know. I like the Death aspect. Like, I don't know. Same thing with the Guardians too. Like the Guardians and Night Watch and like all that cosmic stuff. Like, I think they dropped the ball on all that. Like, I think it's too late now because I think that aspect of Marvel Comics is so cool. Besides like the ground level stuff, I think they mentioned it a little bit with like Pip the Troll and all those guys, and like the Surfer aspect, and like Adam Warlock is supposed to be so cool.
Yes.
Like he's supposed to be like, I honestly thought they dropped the ball, and then like even it would be cool to bring Death in it. And then have like Deadpool, because Deadpool and Death had a thing going on too.
They did.
So it's like, I understand why the MCU did it, but it would have been so much cooler if like they did like a what if or something with the original Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, I agree. I'll admit it. I am when I saw the post-credit scene in Avengers, and I saw the rocks up in space, and I'm like, I'm kind of sitting on the edge of my seat, and I'm like, all right, I think I know who this is, but let's wait and see. And then all of a sudden you hear the voice, and I'm like, oh my God, are they doing Thanos? And then all of a sudden he comes on the screen. I'm like, yes, they're doing the Infinity Gauntlet stuff. I marked out a little in wrestling term, but I marked out a little. But it's so cool. And being, I'm an older dude, but being an older guy and growing up on, the first ever movie I saw, a superhero movie, was Superman in 1977 with Christopher Reeve. And seeing that, and now getting to see all these characters that I've grown up reading and loving from the comic books appear on screen. And yes, you're right. Like sometimes they drop the ball. They don't make them as good as you're reading in the books, but just to see them up there is pretty awesome. I have to admit. And the fact that they're still going to be doing these down the road, and really not just Marvel, but DC too. It's just very cool to see that, where you just don't see it a whole lot. I didn't see it growing up, and it's very cool to see it now.
Because I guess back in the day, you would never thought like Guardians of the Galaxy would have been
no way
as cool as it was, right?
Nope.
Like, I don't know, Rocket and Groot. Like you would have never thought.
I never read a book by them. I never even read a comic before that movie came out. So I didn't even I heard of them. Reading other various books, but I never knew what they were about until I saw that film, and I'm like, oh, now I should go read the books.
Right.
And I did, and then to your point, you see that how they could have maybe gone in a different direction than they did. But what are some of your favorite books? Like you can either say from the ones you're reading now, or some of the stuff you've read in the past.
Right now, I'm reading all the Fall of X stuff. So it's pretty, like, I like it. I like the Krakoan era.
Yep.
It sucks that it might be coming to an end.
Yeah.
And they might be back in the mansion, which I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's pretty cool right now. What else? That's all I'm reading for the most part.
Yeah.
I went back and I tried to read some of the stuff I was reading when I was a kid.
Okay.
So there's like this like Silver Surfer story where like he tries to get Shala Ball back from the dead. So he goes to Adam Warlock and he opens up a dark dimension, and it's crazy. They go talk with Death. And then this is the original Guardians. It's like what, Morgana, Pip, the Troll,
Yes,
Drax,
yep.
and Gamora. So that was like the original like Guardians Night Watch with Adam Warlock, which was crazy. So I've gone back and like read like the old stuff. Like I went back and bought like DC versus Marvel. I want to try to read some of the Aglam comics because I remember I had Spider-Boy when I was like little.
Okay.
So I want to go back and try to get that. I've been reading tons of Invincible. I can't put it down. Like nice. I think I'm on issue like 55 or something. So yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Okay. I was into so many different. Well, I know we talked before the show about you going to the comic book shops and stuff like that. I wonder that I think this is something that a lot of, especially maybe people who are playing Snap that might be younger players that really have not experienced that. Maybe they don't have a comic shop around them, or maybe they just have never gone to one. But it's so cool to just walk in, see the books up on the racks and stuff like that all over the place. And like you had said, you could go to these stores back in the day, and if you knew the owner, which you probably do because you're going there week after week after week to get books, a lot of times then they'll say, hey, why don't you start a pull list and take your name, and then all of a sudden you write down the books you want, and then they pull the books, and then you go in there once every week on a Wednesday to get those new books that come out. It was such a great thing to do. I don't get to do it as much anymore because the comic shop that was near me closed, and I really don't have anything. And I get them. I get them on the Kindle and stuff like that, but it's not the same. It's just holding a book in your hand. It's just a very different thing from reading the stuff digitally. And what I think they're doing with all this stuff, and I have the Galactus one up here too. I cannot wait for this.
That one's cool too.
Oh my gosh, I own this as well.
Oh wow!
And this was 70, I want to say 78. That I think this book came out. So, and it was a cool issue because it was kind of like Galactus disappeared after the original thing where he had the big battle against the Fantastic Four. It wasn't really in comics for a while. And then this issue, they were out in space somewhere, and I'm trying to remember, but they were in space somewhere, and they come across him, and he's kind of like dead in space. He's just like a float, kind of like floating around where they end up finding him. And then they accidentally basically reactivate him. And that brings him back to the thing. So it's kind of a cool story. But that's why I love this stuff. And the feeling of the comics, and not only Marvel, DC as well. I read, like you were talking about, I read a lot of independent comics back in the day. We had Image that started. Todd McFarlane and a bunch of other creators started Image. I was reading Spawn.
Yeah, Spawn, Wildcats.
I was reading
Savage
the Max.
Dragon.
I've never heard of the Max.
Yes, I have. I've seen the the cartoons were crazy.
Did you see the cartoon?
Yeah, the cartoon was crazy. It's like, is he really a superhero or is he on drugs? Like, I don't know.
They really never made it clear. It's like he was a homeless dude, and I don't know that he imagines he's this thing or he's like you never really knew. It was on MTV back in the day when they showed.
I think it's on HBO Max now.
Yes,
I think I tried to go. Like, as a kid, I didn't understand it. I just thought he was like a superhero having dreams. And then once I got older and I watched it again, I was like, this guy might be on something. They
are actually starting work on a movie for that, which I was like, wow. When I saw that, I'm like, that's awesome. I'm a little bit of a fan.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
So I'm a little bit of a Max fan. So, but I did see they were starting to work on that. Again, one of my favorite books. I read it. I read the whole entire series.
And you couldn't tell if he was like on drugs or not.
The way they ended it. Both of the characters, him and Julie. Julie was the one who always took him into her house and stuff like that. She's kind of a social worker and stuff.
Yeah.
Both of them, the way they made it seem, were he was just a normal guy, but he was a big, powerful dude. So it looked like he lifted weights and everything like that. But they did show him at the very end of the story. And when it ends, both of them were living out. It was almost just like living out a fantasy. They were both just, it was all in their heads. Just imagination from both of them. So he wasn't really a superhero. He literally, the mask that he had on his face was a lampshade. He literally had a lampshade over his head that he had painted purple and with like teeth on the front of the lampshade. So it was
crazy.
Yep. And so
I want to see if my comic book shop has any of that stuff. I want to read it.
It's definitely worth a read. It didn't go very long. I want to say he went maybe 40 issues. I want to say.
Okay, so it's a quick read. It's not
bad. It's not. They're all collected in different places now too. Like I'm sure they have the graphic novels of them where you can.
Did you read it like Sin City or any of that stuff?
Yes, love Sin City, dude. Yeah. Give me anything black and white, and I'm good with it. They even did those movies pretty well. I have to say.
The movies were pretty true to the comic for the most part.
I did read Sin City, but I love all this stuff, man. It's so, and that's what drew me to Snap, because I like the art and playing with the cards that have the artwork and stuff like that. It can't help but bring back memories for me. I mean, it's stuff that I haven't, like this particular cover. I know I own it. I haven't seen it in years because it's probably in a long box somewhere down in my basement that I haven't touched. But seeing it, I'm like, oh man, I forgot all about this. So I think it's cool. And I really, obviously now you can see they have the rights and stuff to this. And obviously I hope that this one,
awesome too.
This I never owned. And I didn't even realize, looking at the card, I had to go research it. This is an issue of What If. This is a What If book. What if the Avengers lost the Evolutionary War? And you can see they cut off the What If up at the top of the book, but the What If is like literally up at the top above Avengers. So I had to look it up, and I'm like, all right, I did not, I never read it. I'm going to now, because just out of sheer curiosity, because I never knew it existed.
Oh, wow. So what is your favorite like variant in the game that's a comic book cover?
I am. Oh man, that's a tough one. At first, it was the McFarlane Spider-Man.
That was mine because do you know, like, well, obviously you probably know the history. Like McFarlane was gonna leave Marvel, and
Yep.
then they decided just to give him his own book, and they
Yep.
just instead of the Amazing Spider-Man, it was just
Yep.
Spider-Man. And then he did that book, and then he still left.
That cover was from, if I remember correctly, there was a story called Torment where Peter fought the lizard. It was an episode, it was about 6 episodes long, and it was when he first got his black costume. And that's where that covers from, but that was also, it was basically a duplicate cover of McFarlane's first issue of Spider-Man, because the first issue he did had that same exact artwork, but with the red and blue suit. And then he did it again with the black suit. So yeah, so that's definitely and I didn't even realize it was in the game until I ended up getting it. When the variant came up, I'm like, oh damn. Like, this is amazing. Minute I got it, because I had been playing Spider-Man with Galactus, of course, so much that I had so many boosters saved up. So I split the heck out of that thing because I wanted it inked. And I did end up getting it. But yeah, if you haven't read it, the McFarlane stuff with Spider-Man, and then now some people may not like his art very much. I know, like Mary Jane.
Well, he changed like Spider-Man forever.
He
Like
did.
the huge eyes, the way the spider webs are.
He did. Yeah, he
the
absolutely
way body did. Like contorted and all that. Like,
yep, he absolutely did. I know a lot of people didn't like the way he drew women, because he drew women like Mary Jane. Oh my God, Mary Jane looked like a she movie star, let's just say, but he drew her in a very different way. But
yeah,
but I loved the Venom story. Was literally terrifying. If you read the original origin story with Venom, and the way he drew Eddie Brock and stuff, and this was all 90s art was like this, him and Liefeld and other guys just drew like guys with incredibly huge muscles. They're all these big bodybuilder dudes. When they drew Eddie Brock, oh my God, it was muscle upon muscle upon muscle. And he drew Venom that way too. But it's a great read. If you've never read it, the Spider-Man Venom thing was really, really good. I don't know if you've ever read the story, but yeah, it was really
good. I've read it. It's been a while, but
yeah. But that's my favorite one. But yeah, it's cool because I don't think a lot of people knew. Now, obviously these, because they are comic book covers, but I don't think a lot of people knew that, some of the other ones were were actual, they came from comic books like this one. There's just art out there. I know the Art Germ ones, the Mystique is a comic book cover.
It's crazy how like the Art Germ ones are though, because typically those comic book covers, it just shows the art. It doesn't even show like the logo of what like the comic is at times.
That's true. Yeah,
like I stare at the Captain Marvel Art Germ all the time at the comic book shop, but I'm like, should I get it? And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
But like most of the time, his artwork, it doesn't even show like what comic book it is. It's just the art.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, all you see up in the, because I oh, it was so funny. I was putting out a tweet as a kind of like a preview tweet for the show last night, and I put up 4 comic book covers, and I picked 2 of the Art Germ ones. I picked the Black Cat and the Mystique, and Twitter flagged it. It was like, this is inappropriate content, and I'm like, what is inappropriate about it? It was a picture of Mystique and a picture of Black Cat, and it got flagged.
All this stuff on Twitter.
Yeah, it's like crazy, dude. I'm like, what is so inappropriate about 2 pieces of art? I'm like, whatever. So I took it down and changed
like, he's gonna be in. Well, I don't know. I don't think he's gonna be at. Maybe we have MegaCon in Orlando like in a few weeks. So I think Art Germ might be there with a few variants and like signatures. So I was thinking about going, but I'm not sure.
Have you ever been to a con?
Yeah, I've been to a few.
Have you? Did you ever go to a Comic Con? One of the big ones?
No, I want to, but we had one here in Tampa, but it wasn't. I guess it's not major.
Yeah, they have like smaller ones everywhere. I actually went about maybe 12 years ago. I went to New York. So I went to the New York one. Dude, oh my God. We went on Friday, and then we stayed over and went on Saturday again. It was, I mean, very cool. I was about, maybe 3, 4 feet away from Stan Lee.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, he was signing autographs. Couldn't obviously get near the booth, but I'm tall enough where I was able to see him signing autographs and stuff there. The first day was cool. There wasn't a whole lot of, of course, crowds and stuff. You would expect it, but it wasn't too bad. But then the second day, good Lord, you couldn't move. I mean, you're elbow to elbow with everybody when you walk into
Jeez.
where the rooms and stuff are. So it's insane. I'd love to go to the San Diego one because it's just bigger. The place in
Yeah.
New York, they have the Javits Center, which is it's big, but it's not big. The San Diego one is huge, and
Oh,
you can
nice.
get around. But yeah, they're
I've been
amazing.
to SnapCon.
I snapped it. Did you go?
SnapCon was pretty fun.
You go to that?
Yeah. I had.
Nice.
Well, I sort of had to. It was down the street. It was in
Okay.
Tampa, so I was like, I have to go.
I remember
I think
hearing
that's
about
what
that.
launched my miniature Snap career.
No, there you go. That's awesome, dude. I remember hearing about that. I remember hearing people talk about that. That's neat, though. I'd like to see. I'd like to see more people do it. I think that would be cool. And maybe with the plans that the game has going forward, with the clans they're talking about and the things are, maybe that kind of thing will come and they'll find a different way, maybe, or a better way to do competitions or to do tournaments or anything like that. Because it sounded fun when I heard the people that were talking about it on the streams that they were doing and saying that they were getting together to do it. It seemed like a cool time and just getting out there and meeting people. And that's one of the reasons why I would go to Magic tournaments. You'd meet people and talk to people about it. And it was just a fun time. So hopefully maybe they get something going like that.
Yeah, I don't know if Felicity is going to make another one this year. Hopefully she does. But yeah, I got to meet like Binks and STG
Yep.
and like all those guys, like Guest Gaming, like Tucker. Like it was so many people.
That's
and then
awesome.
I think I was like top 4. Was I top 4 in the tournament?
There you go.
Like top 4, top 8 in the tournament. So it was pretty cool.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's up. Bink seems like he's a fun dude. I watch his streams and I laugh my ass off every time I watch this.
Really cool.
He literally has that theme song that he plays for himself now. That Binks thing with the Kang that he puts up on the screen. I don't know if you've ever saw. Oh my god!
He even dressed up as Kang for Halloween. He was like, DJ
did he really?
Yeah.
The first time I saw that Kang thing come out and he has the lyrics to it and all that, I'm like, oh god, dude, this is hilarious.
Yeah, shout out Binks. Anytime I need advice or anything, those guys are always there.
Yeah, so. They really are. And I mean, I've watched them all. I like Alex's streams a lot. He's very chill as well. Alex Kocha. I like, obviously, the work that Cozy does on his videos is freaking amazing. KM Best, obviously, and such a great player that he is and all that. Yeah, they're really good for anybody to watch because you're going to learn something, regardless of whether you're watching them play or whether they're just talking about cards and stuff like that too. But yeah. Hey, listen, same with you, man. I've watched a lot of your videos, and again, like I said, I love the streams that you do. Very, very chill and stuff like that. So you're right up there as far as I'm
trying to get better. Shout out to Drewberry too, because I'm doing custom card reviews.
Oh gosh. Yeah, he does such a good job with that. I love the custom card things that he does, the card previews that he does. Yeah, he's amazing as well.
So I'm doing Invincible as my first custom card review.
Ooh,
so
are you designing one?
Yeah,
that's cool, dude.
So that will be my first video of custom cards. I think we're doing New Mutants next.
Oh wow, okay.
Mutants.
That's awesome.
So that'll be my second one. So yeah,
I wish
it's definitely a lot for Drewberry to do. So he's passed off some of the work in his community towards me. So
that's
definitely
cool,
thankful
dude.
for that.
I wish I had some talent with that. I do a Max card.
Ooh, that would be maybe. I think I might do an image card type of thing.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd be definitely in for that. That's I got to learn a lot more computer stuff before I get to that.
For sure. I'm still learning every day.
Oh my gosh. I've been doing back in COVID times was when my daughter kind of told me, she's like, Dad, I have a history of journalism. So I went to college for that. I worked for a radio station. I was a nighttime DJ back in the day doing I was playing vinyl in a booth. Doing a show from like 11 to 2 in the morning when there was no one else around. And so, people are like, wow, you do your podcast by yourself. I'm like, I guess maybe I'm just used to talking to myself because I did it a lot back in the day.
Gotcha.
But yeah, and it's just when COVID was when I started doing podcasting, and we started a wrestling channel. Myself and a co-host were doing it, which we still do to this day. And then I kind of thought, well, I love Snap, so why not and give it a shot and see how it goes. But I love the game. I love the and so far, honestly. Shout out to, of course, yourself, and I have to thank you for reaching out to me and coming on because it's great. The community is amazing. I have to say that everyone has been so cool to me. Just starting out, Glazer, of course, coming on the show and reaching out to me.
Beat me to it. I meant to ask you before, but I noticed that you didn't have guests. I noticed that your pod didn't have guests, and then I saw that you had a few guests. And I was like, all right, let me reach out a little bit.
It's funny now because now I've literally I've got a date book now. I had to start a calendar because now I have like 3 weeks in a row lined up after this. So I'm like,
that's awesome.
Wow, this is pretty cool. I don't have to talk to myself all the time. It's pretty awesome.
The one thing I didn't realize with Snap too, I needed like a calendar for like how many things I had going on.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. And it was funny after I put out the tweet and said you were going to be on, and Glazer goes, "Well, I got one upped."
No. Glazer's awesome. He
is really, really cool.
He is the Watu of Snap. He sees decks everywhere.
Oh my gosh, the work he does. I told him, and then he's telling me he's a teacher and everything like that. My wife's a teacher, so I'm aware. And I'm like, how the hell do you do it, dude? Like all that work you do for this. He has a kid, and he's a teacher on top of it. And I'm like, God bless, man. I'm glad you do it. But man, God bless.
Yeah, he's definitely saved my channel a few times where I couldn't come up with a deck, so I just went on his channel, stole one, gave the person credit. But I gave the person credit. I always give the person credit.
Yeah,
I even took one today from Twitter.
Yeah. It's only fair. I mean, if someone makes a deck, don't go out there and pretending like you did. It's silly. I mean, just
yeah, for sure. It's so easy to give credit to.
Mm-hmm.
Or just say where you got it from. Like, I got this from Untapped, or I saw this somewhere. Blah, blah.
Yeah, absolutely. The Gauntlet and these card backs, dude, are fire. I was hoping the Gauntlet was the gold one, but it's the Death one, which is fine. The Death one looks cool too, but I'm pretty stoked about this. And
which one's the Infinity one? The Gauntlet, right?
The one that's going to get the Infinite one is the Death. The skull.
I would have figured it would have been the other way around.
I would have thought so too, because I think the Infinity Gauntlet would have looked amazing gold, but apparently the Death one, because somebody showed me a picture of the Death one gold, so it's the skeleton that's gold.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a little upset when I heard that yesterday too. But next month looks pretty cool. I mean, obviously this is just the card backs. You can see the Death looks pretty fire. I like her card, although I have a ton of Death variants. And then that's what you get. Obviously, the Black Swan. This is the Children of Thanos. This is coming out next month. Obviously, I'm looking forward to this. This card's going to get a big lift out of this month, from what it looks like. And it looks like the season pass is going to be cool. I love all the Thanos stuff. This card looks like, I don't know. A lot of people are saying she might be broken.
I think it's broken.
Yep. A lot of people are saying that. Do you think it releases this way?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they have to. Or I don't know. Because I'm thinking I'm playing Magic, then I'm playing Sarah, I'm playing Sarah, and then I'm playing Black Swan, and then I'm just gonna barrage you on turn 7.
Yep, just pound out a whole bunch of cards.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Goliath might be cool. Make a resurgence, because I think you're going to give up priority playing Black Swan.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. What kind of deck are you playing it in?
Probably, I'm gonna try to play Zoo.
You are gonna play Zoo? Yeah. How'd your Zoo deck work? I meant to ask you that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I had like a 60% win rate. Sometimes I hover around 70. Sometimes I go down to 50, but it's a consistent 60.
Okay.
I made some changes to it, so there might be a Zoo part 2. I think I already made the thumbnail. I just had to make the video
Zoo
for
2.
it. So yeah, I think I made some changes. I added Ghost.
Okay.
That way my Valkyrie always goes last.
Nice.
And then what else did I add? I added Bast. That way Bast hits my Ant-Man, and it hits Warlock, and it hits Sunspot. So it's a pretty consistent deck.
Nice.
You only have to worry about winning one lane as long as you have Valkyrie, because Valkyrie is going to win the other, and then you have Blue Marvel and Khazar to boost everything up. So
that's cool. I tried when Kyra first came out, I tried a Zoo list, and I was like, you just finding with the blob meta and stuff, it's hard because Valkyrie, and I didn't even at that time, I didn't, obviously Valkyrie wasn't around, but yeah, that's you definitely need it in there because you just get outpowered. People just stack lanes and you just get outpowered by that. So yeah, that's cool. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's the only thing. You have to make sure you're winning one lane, and then you just, because the meta is too powerful.
Yep.
So like the whole Valkyrie is like the icing on the cake to win games. I think I won so many AQ games just because of Valkyrie.
Nice. Bringing Zoo back. I love it.
Trying. I want Cozy to take one of my decks. That's what I'm trying to do.
There you go. There you go. Very cool. Oh, man. Well, listen. We've been going an hour and a half. I don't want to keep you. I know it's just a start to your day. So, Prashaun, listen, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you. Like I said, I love talking to people who are comic book fans. It's one of the biggest reasons why I play the game. Tell all my listeners where they can find you. Obviously, you do your streams. Let them know where they can find you and how many times you are streaming during the week.
You can find me on Twitch. Usually I stream lunchtime, but I have class again, so it might be sporadic. But I'll be on YouTube almost on a daily, so just Prashaun on YouTube, and then you can find me on Twitter, Prashaun_snap, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome, man. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. I'm going to definitely be tuning in because I want to see your new Zoo list and, of course, give that a try. So thanks for being with me. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll talk again somewhere down the road.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, whenever you need me on, I'll come around.
I appreciate that, man.
Chatting with you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Guys, it's been great. I hope you enjoy this episode of Snap Decisions. I will be putting out this will be out, of course, on my YouTube page a little bit later today, and the audio version will be out as well on Spotify. I know a lot of people like to listen in the vehicles or whatever the case might be, so that will be available as well. So make sure you check it out. Sub to the channel if you haven't. Hit the like button on the video also. It helps me out big time, and I hopefully will see you all and talk to you all very soon. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you soon.
All right, see ya.